What's up, guys? Thank you for hanging out tonight. It is Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. in the night here. We're going to be going over the waiver wire report for the Week 9 waiver wire run tonight. So thank you for hanging out. We're going to be just kind of going over all the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, and then we'll get to some defenses. If you have questions, we can hang out and answer some of those at the end of the video here. So we're just going to hop right into it. thefantasyfellowship.com. I have my waiver wire report ready to go here. This week on bye, we're going to have Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and Los Angeles Rams, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll have some pretty big names here to fill with this 4-team bye going on here. A new thing that I'm doing here is important injuries to monitor. So at the quarterback position, if you were relying on Jimmy Garoppolo in a streamer as a quarterback one streamer or a quarterback like a Superflex league, he's going to be on IR for 6+ weeks, maybe even the whole season. Depends on how the rest of these 6 weeks go. Gardner Minshew is going to be out at least this weekend and maybe week 9, week 10, so maybe a couple weeks here. And then Andy Dalton was also listed on the COVID list, so he's going to be out at least week 9. We'll see about week 10, but we'll get to some of those the backup quarterback options there. For the running backs, there's big news today. Myles Gaskin, Miami Dolphins basically feature back. He's got a sprained MCL, so he's going to be out at least 3 weeks on IR, so we'll get to some of those options there. The 49ers have already ruled out Tevin Coleman. Aaron Jones is questionable. And then we did see Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon are both going to be out in this one. Because of the COVID, it seemed like Dillon got the COVID, and then Williams was a close contact. There also was a rookie linebacker for the Packers that will be out as well as a close contact. So we got to monitor Aaron Jones. We'll kind of look at that in a little bit here. Actually, let me just pull that up right now. We'll look at the because it's a Thursday night game, those teams do list practice reports here. I don't see Aaron Jones down here as a limited participant in practice. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I think we're going to plan on Aaron Jones not playing in this one. So we'll get to some of those options to pick up in a bit here. We're going to be monitoring Chris Carson's with his foot sprain, Carlos Hyde's hamstring, Kenyon Drake probably not going to play this weekend with his high ankle sprain. Mark Ingram also has a high ankle sprain. He's probably doubtful as well. Darrell Henderson suffered a thigh injury. We'll see about him in his reports tomorrow and Thursday. And then Devonta Freeman's also questionable with an ankle injury. For the receivers, we got a huge list here. Michael Thomas might play. N'Keal Harry, I think he's got a concussion. Alshon Jeffrey, who knows? It's always something. Jamison Crowder, Brashad Perriman, Bryan Edwards, Chris Godwin, and Calvin Ridley. Those are probably the two biggest names that we have to monitor. I think they're going to try to get Godwin to play with his fractured finger, but we'll see about that tomorrow. Calvin Ridley, the Falcons do have a bye next week. So I'm curious to see if they just tell him, hey, take it easy. We're going to rest you up this weekend and next weekend, get you the double bye basically and go from there. Kenny Galladay's got the hip injury. I haven't heard anything on that, but he's probably doubtful. Deebo Samuel's going to be out for Thursday night. T.Y. Hilton, doubtful. Sammy Watkins, doubtful. Adam Humphries, doubtful. And then I do have Allen Lazard here just because I'm curious about when the Packers actually go ahead and activate him. They haven't done it yet, so he's probably not playing tomorrow night. But he's going to be a guy that we're going to want to add just in case he's ready to go week 10. And then tight ends, of course, George Kittle's out for the season. We'll get to some of his replacements. Jordan Akins is going to be probable. He's been kind of on the shelf the last few weekends with ankle and concussion injury, but he looks good to go this week. Tyler Eifert, he's got the neck and the stinger injury. And then Dawson Knox, calf and the COVID list. So a lot of tight ends going to be back here. But we're going to kind of hop right into the quarterbacks. And if you're new to the fantasyfellowship.com, I do my quarterback one streaming options rank. And this is for quarterback one leagues. And basically I'm using ESPN. It's the most popular, basic ESPN league. It just gets the most people to look at the data. You see the starts and the percentage of rostership. So I kind of look at basically under 80% owned. That's kind of where I make this list. So Justin Herbert going up against the Raiders, I really like that matchup there. Ben Roethlisberger going at Dallas. That's a really good one there as well. Matt Stafford at Minnesota. Again, these guys are all likely owned, but I'm just curious here what ESPN is projecting here. So we see Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Stafford and Justin Herbert. These guys are all top 12 options. Justin Herbert's he's just under 94% owned now, so he's probably owned in your league for sure. Matthew Stafford, though, he's about 65% owned. He's going up against Minnesota, who's got a very inexperienced and banged-up secondary. Ben Roethlisberger going up against Dallas. They've had their struggles all season, and he's less than 77% owned. So there's a chance Stafford or Roethlisberger are available here. And then you're looking at guys like Derek Carr going up against the Chargers, Drew Lock going up against Atlanta. I mean, those two guys should be, pretty available in one quarterback league. So Derek Carr, he's about 61% owned. And then you got Drew Lock down here at just about 6% owned. So if you're looking for a streamer, maybe it's Drew Lock this weekend going to Atlanta. He's going to continue to feed Jerry Jeudy, Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant. So he's got a good list of weapons here. And as we see, going up against the Chargers, he threw for 3 touchdowns. This is 19.82 points. That's a 4-point passing league score, so 250 yards almost, 3 touchdowns. He's going to probably have a turnover or 2. But again, he's got this range of 12 to 19 points. So if you're in a pinch and you need a quarterback there, maybe you got Carson Wentz or something, I could see Derek Carr, Drew Lock all being options. Teddy Bridgewater is also a pretty low-owned option as well. If anyone decided to cut Drew Brees or Ryan Tannehill, these guys should be owned in one quarterback league. So I don't mind scooping these guys up and holding on to them, and then maybe rocking 2 quarterbacks for the rest of the season and just playing the matchups there. Then a couple other guys stick out with good matchups. Kirk Cousins going up against Detroit, Kyle Allen against the Giants. But for the rest of it, that's just pretty much kind of low-owned. If you're in a really big pinch there, these guys could be helpful for you. But if you're in a Superflex league, I have a list here of guys that are probably the bottom of the barrel, top 25 guys excluded. So it looks like Jake Luton's going to be starting for the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against Houston. I've heard that he is kind of like he's a rookie. He's kind of like a Jared Goff. He's an extension of the quarterback. He's going to do what is on the field. He's going to take the first read or 2, and if not, he's probably just going to check it down, throw it away, or try to run around with his legs. I don't think he's super athletic, but he can do it. So Jake Luton, Superflex leagues, and it's actually a really good spot start for his first game starting as in his career, going up against Houston. This could be a guy that could get you, 12 to 15 points, throw for a touchdown or 2. But I think we're going to see a lot of James Robinson, a lot of touches for him in this one against Houston. If anyone cut Andy Dalton in a Superflex league, I'm open to just snagging him to the end of the bench. He's going to be out this weekend. He was put on the COVID list, but it's also a really tough matchup for the Cowboys going up against Pittsburgh. But after that, I think the schedule opens up a little bit. So he should be back week 10. You got Nick Mullins going up against Green Bay. I don't really like the spot start for a quarterback 2 in Superflex, but you could see, Nick Mullins might get, at least maybe the rest of the season to start. Who knows? And I guess the other guy there would be CJ Beathard. So if Mullins struggles, it's going to be Beathard. So if you want to put a $1 or 2 bid on Mullins, and then maybe if you miss him, you can pick up Beathard and wait for a week or 2 to see what happens. But I don't really have a lot of confidence in the 49ers quarterback or the receivers much anymore. Philip Rivers going up against Baltimore. It's going to be a tough matchup, but he should, have a chance at a touchdown and maybe 200 yards. Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, we don't really have a lot of confidence in our Jets. But maybe if they're hanging around, Sam Darnold, I think he's probable this weekend. But if he can't play, Joe Flacco would be on the list here. And then the Dallas Cowboys here, they activated Cooper Rush from the practice squad. I think they're not going to use Ben DiNucci this weekend. They're going to want to see what they got from Rush going up against the Steelers. So if you are in a pinch, the Steelers defense is really good. They're going to disrupt, the offensive line with the pass rushers and get to the quarterback. But I'm just interested in Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci. I don't think I would start either of these guys, but if you're in a pinch and you need something at Superflex spots, maybe. And then I do have Mitchell Trubisky down here going up against Tennessee as a stash. Every time I watch Nick Foles and the Chicago Bears, I just get a little thought in the back of my head saying, are we going to see Trubisky pretty soon? Next series? And then Nick Foles will make a 50-yard throw to Mooney or throw a touchdown. So I don't know. It's just very uninspiring by Nick Foles. So I'm kind of just thinking maybe if the Bears lose another game or 2, we might see Trubisky at some point. So if you have the room and you can afford, to hold on to him, Trubisky could be a stash there in Superflex leagues. But let's look at the running backs here. So if you're new to the fantasyfellowship.com, it's kind of like how I did the quarterbacks here. These are following running backs are likely owned, but might be available in your leagues. So I would probably prioritize these guys over some of the ones that I have priority ads. So guys like Chase Edmonds going up against Miami, he should be owned. I'm just curious about the percent rostership on ESPN here for some of these guys. So I'm filtering by projections, and then I'm just going to be looking down the list here at percentages. So Chase Edmonds, he's just about 84% owned, so there's an outside chance he's available in your league. But again, Kenyon Drake's out this weekend and maybe next weekend, so you're going to see Chase Edmonds get an extended look as the main ball carrier. You got the first one that's going to come up here is Jermichael Hasty, 62% owned. He's going up against Green Bay. That's a green 32 matchup. Green Bay allows the most running back points in fantasy. So Hasty, what are you getting with JaMychal Hasty if he's available? He's a good slasher. He's got this really quick, sudden movement to his game. I would like to see him get more receptions, but they're going to probably keep McKinnon in that role there. But we do see 12 carries. So he's starting to rack up the carries. The Seahawks pretty much bottled them up here, 12 for 29. But like we said, Green Bay is a really easy matchup. If he does get the 12 carries and a catch or two, I mean, he's getting 8 and 10 points in these tough matchups here. So you got to think this is his floor. He could get into the end zone again. So if JaMychal Hasty is available, I think he's going to be probably the one guy that I would recommend to just make sure to just check your wires, make sure he's not available. If he is, I think you could start him as a RB2 on Thursday night. Looking at some of the other names down here as we go, Justin Jackson's about 83% owned. He's got a really good matchup going against the Raiders, so I could see him if he's available. Again, he's a plug-and-play RB2. You got Jerick McKinnon here. He's less than 83% owned. We didn't really like what he was doing a couple of weekends ago, but we did see last weekend he got the goal line carry, which was interesting. They're only going to have McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty basically healthy, and then he does catch passes. So I'm not really sure what happened weeks 5 and 6 and 7. He was pretty much banged up after this big, heavy workload, week 14 and week 3, or week 4 and 3. But you're probably going to see Jerick McKinnon start to, get back into double digits against Green Bay. Like we said, it's a really easy matchup. Any other names that stick out here? Matt Breida, he's going to be the one guy that I have on the list here. He's probably the number one priority ad that should be available in most leagues. And that's just because Myles Gaskin is going to be out at least 3 weeks. We did see the Miami Dolphins trade for the Chiefs running back, DeAndre Washington, but he's not going to play this weekend. So that leaves Matt Breida, Jordan Howard, let's see, Patrick Laird. I'm trying to think of any other running backs on that roster. But it's going to be Matt Breida who gets the first opportunity here. He could be used as a low-end RB2 in PPR leagues. We really liked what Myles Gaskin was doing. I mean, Gaskins was getting all the goal line touches. He was getting all the receptions. He was getting, almost 80% of the backfield touches. So I'm interested to see if they give Breida pretty much all that workload. So he's probably the one guy here that I would say make sure he's about 20% owned in all ESPN leagues. So he should be a priority ad if you're in need of an RB2. And Myles Gaskin, he's out for 3 weeks. Let's just take a look at the schedule here for the Dolphins, the upcoming schedule. It's going to be Arizona, Chargers, Denver, Jets. So I'm just looking 4 weeks out. These defenses don't scare me. We've seen James Robinson run all over the Chargers. Arizona, maybe there's a little bit more pass catching work here for Breida, but Denver, the Jets, even Cincinnati, if Gaskin's out a little bit longer than 3 weeks, you got some really good matchups here. So I think I'm okay with getting Breida on the team and just saying, hey, this might be my RB2 or my flex for a little bit here. Some other guys here on the list here that I think might be available. Zach Moss going up against Seattle. He did I think he out-snapped and out-touched Devin Singletary last weekend. Let me just look at the opportunity report. Buffalo Bills. So Zach Moss, 31 snaps to Devin Singletary's 28 snaps. They both had 14 carries, both had a target. So same amount of workload. But Zach Moss, man, as the weather gets colder, he's probably just going to get more and more work. He's more physical. He can handle the goal line carries, as you see with the 2 touchdowns. So if Zach Moss is somehow hanging around there, let me just see his availability here. So he's about less than 43% owned. He's got a decent matchup going against Seattle. I'm not really sure about his schedule going forward, but we're going to he's got a bye also as well. So if you hold on to the bye, you're going to get the Chargers, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, but then he finishes with Denver and New England. So maybe these weekends we see both road games, we see a heavy amount of running for Buffalo. Other guys here, Gus Edwards going up against Indianapolis Colts. We just saw Edwards. I think he had 16 carries for 87 yards. We're not expecting Mark Ingram to play this weekend. So Gus Edwards, he's probably less than 5 or 10% owned in your league. So I think he could be a low-end RB2, and it seems like he's going to be the goal line back. I know they like J.K. Dobbins back there too. But Edwards, man, he's super steady, really good runner. He doesn't have a lot of value in PPR leagues. But against the Colts, I mean, that game's going to be a heavy defense, kind of run the ball game. And I really like Gus Edwards. And just because the injury still is broken on Mark Ingram, they might just keep him out until he's, 110% healthy or plus. So I really like Gus Edwards. Kind of the same thing with Jordan Wilkins here. Jonathan Taylor has some kind of ankle injury. I don't really know that much about it. We're going to hopefully hear more Wednesday, Thursday. But as long as Jordan Wilkins is out here getting, lots of carries. What did he have? Jordan Wilkins, where is he? on the list. Let me just type in Wilkins here. And I guess I'm just looking ahead at the Colts schedule today, and it's really, really favorable. But you see Jordan Wilkins come in, 20 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. He also caught 1 for 24 yards. I mean, that's a 20-point day. You know, I know it's against Detroit, but if you look at the schedule, it's a tough matchup week 9 against Baltimore. But all of a sudden, week 10, Tennessee, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, Las Vegas, Houston. Then he finishes against Pittsburgh. But you're looking at, I mean, a run here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games against bottom 10 rushing defenses. So if Jonathan Taylor's injury proves to be a little bit, you know, worse than what we're hearing, Jordan Wilkins could be a guy here that he's very dependable. He's gotten some carries early on in the year when the injury happened to Marlon Mack. But if he's going to get 20 touches against Tennessee, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, and Las Vegas, I'm really liking what Jordan Wilkins could potentially be. He's probably a guy that's not on a lot of people's radar. We talked about McKinnon being an RB2 potential. DJ Dallas, he's not at Seattle. He's going up against the Buffalo. So DJ Dallas is at Buffalo. I'll fix that. But if Chris Carson's out, Carlos Hyde's out, you can probably whip out DJ Dallas again as an RB2. Cam Akers is going to be on bye, but the Rams are on Darrell Henderson's injured, so we have to monitor what he's up to. But if Cam Akers was dropped within the last week or two because of the frustrating usage, you could snag Cam Akers here. And then the Packer running backs. If Aaron Jones does not play on Thursday night, all the Packers have left at running back is Tyler Ervin, who's been basically a wide receiver for them. He's been strictly in the wide receiver room all training camp and all season so far. So they really only have one healthy true running back, and that's the second-year player Dexter Williams out of Notre Dame. So they called him up from the practice squad, so that's already, you know, a good sign that Aaron Jones might not be available. But if you needed a pinch in RB2 this weekend, Tyler Ervin, Dexter Williams, I really don't have a lot of confidence in either guy. I can tell you Tyler Ervin's probably going to catch more passes, and he might be more the third down back. You might see Dexter Williams, be the first and second down guy, kind of the heavy lifter. And if they did get to the goal line, you might see Dexter Williams there. But all signs point to this, especially if Aaron Jones is out. This is probably going to be a very heavy Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, a lot of passing volume in this one. So I think I might lean towards Tyler Ervin in a PPR league as a potential RB2 flex or something like that. So I do like Dexter Williams, though. I just think he's not going to offer as much, especially in pass blocking and catching balls there as well. So Green Bay probably going to throw the ball at least 40 times, and we'll see what Devontae Adams can continue to keep doing. But I guess other running backs here that if any of these running backs are available in your league, I would highly recommend snagging these guys, whether that's Philip Lindsay, JaMychal Hasty, Justin Jackson, Leonard Fournette. It seems like he's kind of taking over the role for Ronald Jones, even though I don't agree with it. But he's going to be their pass-catching back. So in a PPR league, Leonard Fournette could be an RB2. If anyone cut Alexander Mattison, now that Dalvin Cook is back, Dalvin Cook, he's got injury history. He just flashed a lot of really good stuff against Green Bay. But if he gets hurt and someone cut Alexander Mattison, I'm trying to snag him on the end of my bench. J.K. Dobbins, he should be owned in all leagues. Malcolm Brown, now that Darrell Henderson is injured. Damian Harris looks really good. I think he's ran for over 100 yards in 2 out of 4 games so far, going up against the Jets on Monday Night Football. So Damian Harris might be a sneaky add here as your running back 2 to start this weekend. And then Naheem Hines, just because Jonathan Taylor might not even play this week. And it's a tough defense, so they could try to get a little short area of passing going on there. And then J.D. McKissic, just because he's a really easy 8 to 10 point floor in PPR leagues. So we're looking at, since I'm on the topic of running backs, I'm going to answer this question real quick from Daniel, HXCX. So we're talking Justin Jackson or Damian Harris. Assuming this is PPR league, I think I feel safer about Justin Jackson going up against the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders have much of a defense. Let me just look here at one of the resources that I got. So I'm on the website fftoday.com, and then you can actually click on fantasy points allowed here, and I'm just going to filter by PPR, and let's just see here. So the Raiders, they allow they're a bottom team here, so they're allowing almost 30 fantasy points to the running back in PPR, so half PPR. Let me see what that might be. I think that's Yahoo. Yahoo does half PPR. So let me just update this list here. So the Raiders still allowing the sixth most fantasy points to the running back here, about 20, 25, almost 26 here. And then Damian Harris going up against the Jets. Surprisingly, the Jets have a decent defense here. I guess they're still allowing the 10th most, but that's about 23. So just based on stats, the Raiders allowing about 40, they've allowed 45 catches. The Jets have allowed 49, but Harris doesn't really catch passes. I think I'm going to stay pat with Justin Jackson in this one as well, just because he's playing really good. And I don't know if you've watched the Chargers games, but he sticks out among the other backs here. I'm just trying to click on his stats a little bit more. Where does he stick out? Justin Jackson, where are you, my man? Justin Jackson. Can't find you. Justin Jackson. Okay. So last weekend going up against Denver, 17 carries, 89 yards, and then he gets, he's seeing 5 to 6 targets per game. So whether that's 3 to 5 catches, but the guy is really efficient. You see the 17.7 yards per catch, 8.6. 3 straight games of double digits. I just think he's a little bit more safe. And then you can even see him hit double digits. Like if it's a bad game, he only had 5 carries here, but he gets 5 catches. I just think he's a little bit safer. I do like the Chargers going up against the Raiders in this one. So I think I'm going to say Justin Jackson. Thank you for the question, Daniel. We're going to move on to the wide receiver segment here. So the following receivers are likely owned but might be available in your league. So we're going to talk about Brandon Cooks, Mike Williams going up against the Raiders. Sterling Shepard looked good the other night against Tampa Bay. Corey Davis, this guy should be owned. He just had 128 yards. I think it was like 6 or 7 catches against the Bengals there. Cole Beasley going up against Seattle. That's a really interesting matchup for a spot start. Darius Slayton should be owned. He looked good in the few catches last night. And Daniel Jones is he's just a little bit off on some of those deep plays. So Darius Slayton could have a lot more fantasy points coming up if they start connecting on those. We saw Jerry Jeudy get 10 targets last weekend, and now he plays Atlanta, so that's a really juicy matchup. Emmanuel Sanders returns from the COVID list going up against Tampa Bay. We'll also see if Michael Thomas returns in that one as well. But Brandon Ayuk, kind of the last man standing for the 49ers going up against Green Bay. He should be owned. Curtis Samuel, 2 touchdowns last weekend going up against Kansas City. He's starting to prove that he could be a PPR flex play. Keelan Cole, really good matchup going up against Houston. I did have Michael Gallup here against Pittsburgh just because Pittsburgh allows quite a bit of receiver points. But if we're starting Cooper Rush, I don't know if we're going to be able to recommend any Dallas Cowboys. Even Ezekiel Elliott is becoming, especially a tough matchup for Ezekiel Elliott. Are we starting Ezekiel Elliott this week? I don't know. That's to the point where we're at. So I think all Dallas Cowboys are going to be left on my bench this weekend. Even Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. But then you got Christian Kirk going up against Miami, and Jalen Reagor. He returned last week and he caught the touchdown. I think he had 6 or 7 targets. He caught a 2-point conversion as well. So Jalen Reagor is looking really fun here, and he's on bye, so he might be a guy that you can just pick up for free. But then we're looking at some priority wide receivers that should be available in your league. And I think a lot of people abandoned ship on Marvin Jones Jr. We're expecting Kenny Golladay to be out this weekend with a hip injury. We're going to know a little bit more tomorrow after the first practice report there for Detroit. But we're assuming Marvin Jones going up against Minnesota. We just saw Devontae Adams smash his team for 3 touchdowns. Adams has actually caught 5 touchdowns against the Vikings alone this year. So you could see Marvin Jones, who caught 2 touchdowns last weekend. Maybe Marvin gets a little bit rolling here with Kenny Golladay out. But then you got Mecole Hardman going up against Carolina Panthers. Hardman looked good last week. I'm trying to remember how many receiver points he had, but he took the little screen or the little shovel pass all the way to the house right away for the first score of the game. So he's looking like they're trying to get him more involved. I don't know how many projections we got for Mecole Hardman here, but I'm assuming Sammy Watkins is still out this week. They actually got Watkins down here. Let's just type in Hardman. I'm just curious about his percent owned. So he's about 30% owned, so he could be used here. He did put up 22.6, so he's going to be very boom bust. But if you're feeling risky, he did have 9 the week before, and then 22.6 here. So you're seeing 7 receptions, 96 yards on 9 targets. So it's just really this 1 0-point game was really frustrating. But other than that, you see a 9, a 7, a 12, an 18, and a 7. So it's looking like Mecole Hardman is starting to grow within this offense. So I think he might be a guy worth snagging. And if going up against Carolina, it does say it's a tough matchup, but I could see Mecole Hardman being useful for us down the stretch there. I really like Darnell Mooney going up against Tennessee. He had 17 points against the Saints last weekend. Laviska Shenault Jr. going up against Houston. I'm interested in the rookie receiver to see if he meshes with Jake Luton. You think about a rookie quarterback kind of taking those little dump-off throws and just kind of taking what the defense gives you on the quick slants or just getting the ball out of your hand quickly. I think Shenault could benefit from that. Randall Cobb going up against Jacksonville. He's been having a nice PPR floor lately. Danny Amendola is on the list because Kenny Golladay is going to be out, so Danny Amendola should be stepping into 6 to 10 targets. Really, really good matchup against Minnesota. I could see Amendola being a wide receiver 3 flex for you guys this weekend. We got Denzel Mims here going up against New England. I don't know if I start Denzel Mims, especially if Stephon Gilmore plays, but this is a player that the Jets, as the season continues to stretch on, they're going to want to try to get this kid their second-round pick. They're going to want to get him more and more involved as the season progresses. So I'm really interested in him. But this is probably the next one here. Allen Lazard, returning from IR. I don't think this weekend, but I would assume next week they're going to activate Lazard from the IR. He had that core muscle surgery, but he's gonna inject a lot of potential back into this offense. We really haven't seen a steady Green Bay offense since Lazard and since Aaron Jones have been out. They're probably getting both of those guys back for sure week 10. So we're going to see the Green Bay Packers, I think, start to catch some more consistency here. And I just want to type in Green Bay schedule and show you guys what we're looking at here. So after this tough, I don't know if it's going to be a tough matchup. We might see a lot of passing. But the Packers schedule the rest of the season after the San Francisco 49er game. Jacksonville, Colts, Bears, Eagles, Lions, Panthers, Titans. We could see Aaron Rodgers, set up really, really well for a top 5 quarterback the rest of the way. You love Devontae Adams. You're going to love Aaron Jones. You're going to love probably Allen Lazard too. So I think he's going to be, I don't know. Allen Lazard has wide receiver 3 upside the rest of the season. Jacoby Myers, he had, I think, 10 targets last week. He caught 6 for 58. He also caught a 2-point conversion. Julian Edelman's probably not going to be a thing the rest of the way. So I think Jacoby Myers is going to be featured a lot. He's going to get a lot of targets. So he's a guy that you could probably add for free. Sammy Watkins, if anyone has dropped him, he's going to be returning from his hamstring. Maybe not this week, but maybe the next game. Anthony Miller had a really good game. I think he had 11 targets against the Saints, so he's going up against Tennessee. So this could be a spot starter as well. And then the one guy that really stuck out to me is going to be Auden Tate here. I just want to look at the fantasyfellowship.com at the opportunity report. But Auden Tate, he stepped onto a pretty good snap load here. Let me just pull it up here. So Auden Tate last week, I think this was the most snaps he played in a game. He played 33 snaps, about 45%, but he caught all 7 of his targets for 65 yards. And I mean, if AJ Green's going to continue to do this, 2 for 19 on 5 targets, Auden Tate could eventually be working into the 70% workloads here. So this is definitely a guy I'm keeping an eye on. They're on bye this weekend, so maybe they try to prioritize some of their younger players to get more run as the season goes. But I mean, I just know next year, who knows if AJ Green's going to be on this team. Maybe they start to get Auden Tate pushed into that starting lineup and see what he can do down the stretch. So I'm really curious about him. And then if you're feeling really dirty and just want to whip out a 10-point PPR New York Jet receiver, Braxton Berrios is your guy. I don't really want to talk about the Jets, though. So we're going to just move on to the tight ends. And tight ends, man, they are a complete wasteland. I'm going to start here saying George Kittle should be dropped in all redraft leagues. They're saying it's an 8-week injury. You do the math. It's going to be maybe he plays week 17, but that would be kind of stupid for them to even think about bringing him back week 17. They're probably not going to be in playoff contention. I guess the only way he does come back is if the 49ers are somehow 9-6 and they need a win, or they're 8-7 and they need to get to 9-7 for the playoff spot. But I'm just assuming, if week 17, fantasy leagues don't really play that long. So I think we can drop George Kittle safely in all redraft leagues. And then I do have a list here of tight ends that should be owned. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, these guys are the top tight ends available here. Darren Waller for sure. And then Zach Ertz. If you're holding on to Zach Ertz and you have an IR spot, it's okay. Otherwise, I don't know if you need to carry him. But then after that, are we carrying Tyler Higbee, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, Dallas Goedert? I think Dallas Goedert's one of the guys here that you want to make sure is not on your waiver wire. He probably already got picked up in the last week or two. Jonnu Smith should be owned. TJ Hawkinson for sure. I think Hawkinson's a top 5 tight end the rest of the season. Mike Gesicki. I think this might be Mike Gesicki's last week on this list. I'm probably not starting Gesicki this weekend. We'll get to that on the Thursday podcast. But I'm really losing faith in Mike Gesicki. Robert Tonyan had a good game last weekend, so it looks like he's going to be startable again. Jared Cook, he's playing like a top 10 tight end. And then Evan Ingram and Rob Gronkowski are playing good as well. So I think all these guys here that I just listed, they should be owned. If any of those guys are available, I'd scoop them up. But guys that should be available here, I mean, Eric Ebron going up against Dallas. I really like the consistency seen from Eric Ebron. I mean, Deontay Johnson continues to miss time and miss snaps because of injuries. But if you look at what Eric Ebron's been doing with this new team here, I mean, he's getting some double digits here. He just caught 4 for 48 and a touchdown. He's been over 40 yards in all but 2 games. And then he's catching a decent amount of targets here. So I really like what Eric Ebron can do. Really good matchup going up against Dallas. So try to take advantage of that if you can. Hayden Hurst, I have him on the list just because it's going up against Denver, not a very good team against tight end. And then as long as Julio Jones is in there, and hopefully Calvin Ridley too, because I noticed that when Calvin Ridley and Julio both play, Hayden Hurst all of a sudden kind of looks like a guy that, the teams kind of just say we have to take away the receivers. Hayden Hurst is pretty much open for a lot. So I like Jared Cook against Tampa Bay. He should be owned, but if not, go ahead and snag him. But then we're going to get to some guys here that these guys all are likely available in your league. Logan Thomas going up against the Giants. Before the bye, I think he caught touchdowns in back-to-back games. Jimmy Graham going up against Tennessee. Jordan Akins is returning from his injuries up against Jacksonville. So I'm really watching this spot here to see if the athletic tight end can gain some steam for the rest of the season. You got Trey Burton. Trey Burton's got 2 rushing touchdowns this year. They like to get him involved in the offense, especially near the goal line. So it's a tough matchup against Baltimore. We'll see what Trey Burton can do. Dalton Schultz going up against Pittsburgh. I guess if there's one Dallas Cowboy that I'm okay with starting, it's going to be Dalton Schultz because, you just think about the dump-off passes. That could be a really hot target there for Cooper Rush. You got Albert Okwuegbunam going up against Atlanta. Really soft matchup against Atlanta. He just scored his first career touchdown last weekend. Drew Lock is one of his favorite targets. They went to Missouri together, so I really like Albert O. And then you got the 49ers backup tight ends here, whether it's Ross Dwelley, Jordan Reed. I really don't have a lot of confidence in Jordan Reed to stay healthy, so maybe you pivot to Ross Dwelley. But then again, I don't really know if I want to tie myself to the Nick Mullins offense. So that's it for the tight end spot, though. And then we'll answer some questions here. If you guys have any, you guys can start firing them away in the chat room. But the best defensive matchups of the weekend, of course, Pittsburgh Steelers going up against Dallas. That's on the road at Dallas. Baltimore Ravens going to Indianapolis. I really like that one. I guess Philip Rivers doesn't install a lot of confidence for me there. Arizona Cardinals against Miami. We'll see if Tua Tagovailoa can get things going there. But I'm assuming the Cardinals defense secondary to kind of lock down those receivers and kind of limit what Tua can do. You got the New England Patriots against the Jets, Green Bay Packers against San Francisco. We know they can't really stop running backs, but I'm a team that's starting Nick Mullins, no George Kittle, no Deebo Samuel. If the Packers can't get this done, we know we can't trust them at all going forward. But I kind of think that they're top 5, top 10 defense this week. The Colts against Baltimore, it's a tough matchup, but they're a good defense. And it's at home. Tampa Bay against the Saints. Kansas City up against Carolina. I like that one. Chicago Bears against Tennessee. The Bears are kind of a must-start defense anyways. They kind of just get things done. And then you got Washington football team against the New York Giants. Daniel Jones just continues to rack up turnovers. And then I'm looking at the Houston Texans against Jacksonville, going up against Jake Luton. So we'll see what happens there. But that's pretty much it for the Week 9 Waiver Wire report. I don't see any questions here in the chat room. So I think we're just going to, maybe I'll just kind of hop over to Roto World, and I'm just going to finish up with maybe 5 or 10 minutes of just kind of reading the news. I'm just going to type in here questions. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'm just hanging out probably another 5 minutes or so. I'm just going to read the news here. If you have any questions for your Week 9 waiver wire bids tonight, let me know in the comments. But we're just going to pop over to the Roto World here. We're going to look at some offensive notes here from the players. So Devin Asiasi, rookie tight end, he's going to be on injury reserve. Nothing really to note there. Dante Pettis was released by the 49ers. We'll see if he catches on anywhere. He was a former second-round pick, so he's a talented player, but it sounds like he wasn't applying himself professionally. Ben DiNucci, they're benching him. It's already coming up here. So it looks like Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush are going to compete to start here. So we'll see what happens there. Looks like we got a question here from our guy Chase Brown. So you lost Kittle for the season and you traded for Waller. I gave away Clyde Edwards and Antonio Brown. Think this is a good trade? It seems like it's weird because we don't really know the value of Clyde Edwards and Antonio Brown. There's a lot of unknown upside in Antonio Brown. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we really don't know what the workload is either for that. So I think you kind of sent away two murky situations, and you got yourself. Outside of Travis Kelce, I think Darren Waller is the safe and clear number 2 tight end. So I kind of like the move there. And I'm assuming if you traded away Clyde and Antonio Brown, I'm assuming you had some really solid running backs and wide receivers to move up into the starting lineup. So I guess that'd be my question. What do you got for depth at running back and wide receiver, Chase? I'm just going to read the Myles Gaskin note. So we did cover this in the beginning of the video, but he's out with an MCL sprain. He's going to miss at least 3 games. We did like the Dolphins' schedule when I looked at it about 20 minutes ago, but we're not really sure what's going to happen with the depth. I would assume Matt Breida gets the push up there, but even then, Jordan Howard's probably going to play. Patrick Laird, they just traded for DeAndre Washington. This might be just a huge mess of a situation. We got our guy, the fellow DCP here, saying Kyle Juszczyk scored a TD this weekend. Going up against the Packers, anything is possible. We might even see, JaMycal Hasty could throw a touchdown for all we know with all the situations and injuries they got going on over there. So our guy Chase says my RBs are still Mixon and CMC, Ridley and Michael Thomas. So yeah, I think you did okay there. You're plugging in Darren Waller, easily probably the safest option at tight end besides your guy Travis Kelce. So I really like Darren Waller, and you have Chase Edmonds too. So yeah, I think you did the right thing, and you cashed in and secured your tight end points there. It looks like Jordan Reed was limited on Tuesday's practice. If you're trying to plug in a guy for like George Kittle and you're looking for Ross Dwelley or Jordan Reed, I would probably recommend Ross Dwelley at the moment, just because Jordan Reed, he's still not 100% yet, and he's just so injury prone. And it looks like Ross Dwelley has the health on his side here, so he's going to be good to go. Let's take a look at some of the other notes here. So yeah, Will Fuller wasn't traded before the deadline. George Kittle, 8-week recovery. Aaron Jones was limited at Tuesday's walkthrough, but the Packers are reportedly pessimistic. So we talked about this maybe 20 minutes ago on the show. You can go back and listen to this if you need to. But it's going to be a mix between Tyler Ervin and Tyler Ervin's more the receiver. I really don't know if I can recommend either of these guys, though, for your fantasy lineups. I think it's going to be a heavy passing game for the Packers. And anything they get out of Dexter Williams, maybe he gets a goal line touchdown. But as we saw against Minnesota, Devontae Adams is probably going to be the red zone offense going forward along with those tight ends. It looks like Deebo Samuel has been declared out against the Packers. Tevin Coleman out against the Packers. The Ravens have a bunch of guys on the COVID list. So this is something to monitor here. I think only Marlon Humphrey, cornerback, was tested positive, but they did have a lot of guys that had close contact that they just put on the list for now. Again, Miami Dolphins adding DeAndre Washington to the mix. Jimmy Garoppolo on injury reserve with a high ankle sprain. Philip Dorsett, he wasn't playing at all this year, but he went surgery on his right foot. He's probably out for the season. A couple other news and notes here before we sign off. Any other questions? Go ahead and ask away right now. But this is a little trade here in the division between the Patriots and the Dolphins. Miami sent Isaiah Ford. He's a little slot receiver to the Patriots. So that to me says Julian Edelman's not very healthy, and we might see Isaiah Ford step right into a starting lineup right away. Not this weekend, but the next weekend. Antonio Brown was activated this weekend. It sounds like Bruce Arians is not really giving us much of anything. He says it could be 10 plays, 35 plays, but it's definitely not going to be a full workload. So you might see Antonio Brown just kind of ease back into things, maybe play 30, 40% of the snaps. I'm trying to think here. Anything else that sticks out? That's pretty much it for the day. Otherwise, we're probably just going to get into New York Giants news. So that's going to wrap up for tonight's show. I guess for the schedule the rest of the week, I'm going to start pumping out my start-sit charts. We're going to talk tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I will be talking about the Thursday night game, Packers and the 49ers. That's probably going to last about 15-20 minutes, and then if you wanted to hang out, I will answer questions after that. So it'll probably be from 6 o'clock. We'll probably do 6 to 6:40 or so. And then on Thursday night, we're going to cover the rest of the start-sit charts, and then I might have a guest on Friday night. So the rest of the week is looking booked. We're going to have a lot of shows here, and I'm trying to establish a 6 p.m. Start time for the future here. So we got that to look forward to. I just want to say thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at @thefellowkgb. But that's going to be it for tonight. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you in another video. Peace.